Hey VC, this is Harvey and welcome to Spinning the Black Circle. This is Friday Night Vinyl, your one-stop shop for all things music and record collecting. For those of us who work, welcome to the end of the first week in January, the first working week of January. If you don't work, then congratulations anyway. Friday night's a time to celebrate and talk about music. And I've got, semi-dry January, I've got a Zero Coke tonight. I don't think I'll be drinking tonight. Too much excess over Christmas. So, the new wave of British jazz. I'm going to select 10 records. I'm going to show you 10 records, and it was quite difficult to whittle it down to just 10. There has been an explosion of jazz talent in the UK over the last 5 to 7 years, and it continues at pace. And it is a surprise that in the VC, I don't see a lot of reference or talk about this explosion of jazz from the UK that's happened and happening. So I want to both correct that and start the ball rolling on some discussion, because I can't believe across the VC, when I show these 10 records one by one, that there aren't lots of others who've enjoyed these albums or splinter groups or artists like them from the UK. But honestly, the UK is absolutely trouncing it. And these 10 records hopefully give you food for thought if you either have only touched upon this or know nothing about what I'm terming the new wave of British jazz. So let's go. I want to start with a London three-piece and their 2018 LP on Impulse Records. The Comet is Coming as the band. What a fantastic name for a band. And the album is called, fantastically, Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery. So the linchpin of this three-piece is Shabaka Hutchings, UK saxophonist. He's in multiple acts. He's probably the mainstay, one of the mainstays of this new wave of British jazz. This is fantastic. It mixes jazz with electronics, with funk, with Afrobeat. A tremendous album. There's a prog element to this too. So Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery by the Comet is Coming. I think this was their second LP, or maybe even being the third. But this is the one that really they took off with. And if you like experimental music, but also melodic, driving, and just downright funky jazz music, it's quite unique actually. So you can trace back some of Shabaka Hutchings' influences from John Coltrane. Yes, you can trace back to 70s fusion, like Return to Forever. But this is very unique, very British, very London, and a tremendous LP. So Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery. There's 3 or 4 Comet is Coming LPs, and I've enjoyed them all. But the one to start with is Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery. And I promise you, if you're a jazz fan who's got an open mind on beyond trad jazz or beyond hard bop, bebop, and there's something different, this is a tremendous LP, and there's melody running through this too. So it's challenging in places, but it's also accessible at the same time. So number 1 of 10, Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery. The Comet is Coming, London jazz experimental three-piece. You'll hear more about Shabaka Hutchings as part of these 10 albums. Possibly the singular most impressive talent in this list, and that is saying something, is again a London-based female saxophonist named Nubia Garcia. And this is her second full LP, Odyssey, that was released last year. You should check out both of Nubia's full LP efforts. The first one is called Source, and it was released 3 years ago. That's got a ton of dub influence in it. Really strong funk influence too. A sax on that is the dominant instrument, and it plays like a saxophonist's 4 or 5 piece unit with her right at the center. Honestly, something different. She peppers it with African influence, but also orchestral music, and she uses on this LP apparently the first major ethnic minority orchestra. I think it's pronounced Chin, the Chin Orchestra. I think it's CHINKE, the Chin Orchestra on this. And so you get these beautiful orchestral backdrops laced with dub, but also a pure sax sound from Nubia Garcia too. She's got a really powerful, driving, but very British sound and tone to her sax. I don't hear so much of that US influence in how she plays sax, but it's very, very much jazz. So you could start with Source, which is probably a more accessible LP to start with, her debut full LP. But even more impressive, I think, is Odyssey by Nubia Garcia. and I'd highly recommend it. So that's 2 of 10 in jazz. I'm going to move to trumpet now, and a Bahrainian UK female trumpet player named Yaz Ahmed, and her LP from 2017, La Sabatus. So she's a British, I think London-based trumpeter. This is wild because of that Bahrainian influence. It's a bit like walking into a jazz club that has snake charmers throughout it, and it's just got this this massive beat-driven funk to it as well. Again, though, much more accessible than I've just described. And the band on here and her arrangements and her compositions are absolutely unbelievable. It's got this spiraling, thumping texture to it throughout. But I can't emphasize enough that the mix of that jazz trumpet sound with this Bahrainian influence, kind of Indian chicks, like snake charmer music, is unbelievable. She's made a number of LPs, I think 4 or 5 LPs now. I'd love to see her on tour. I think she might be touring next year, but I would start with La Sabatus if you're getting into Yaz Ahmed. Stream it she's just re-released this on vinyl too, so this is quite an expensive, because it was limited to I think 500 pressings, this particular copy, but she has re-released it just at normal price, and I think the pressings, from what I've heard, are really good. So La Sabatus from 2017 from Yaz Ahmed. It might even be the first one for you to dip your toes in this new wave of British jazz, this LP, because it's that good. How many have we done? We've done, I'll count back, but we've done 3. Number 4 is a band I mentioned in my top 5 albums of 2024. I'm actually going to go back one to their second LP by Ezra Collective, which is named Where I'm Meant to Be, from 3 years ago. And the reason I'm selecting Where I'm Meant to Be by Ezra Collective is this is probably your entry point for Ezra Collective. Funk features heavily and dance features heavily in Ezra Collective. Amazing musicians, drummer and bass player, unbelievable rhythm section, keyboard player is amazing, as is the sax and trumpet. But try to stop dancing to Ezra Collective, you just can't. So very, very accessible, but also stretching, deep music. And there are some vocal tracks on here, but it's predominantly instrumental. Ezra Collective, possibly the most successful in the UK of the new wave of British jazz at the minute. It's really hard to get concert tickets. Everybody knows that their concerts are wild and people dance throughout, and it's just an event. You know, one of those bands, it's an event. So Where I'm Meant to Be by Ezra Collective, the one that I featured in my top 5 albums of 2024, sorry, last week was the LP released last year, of course, which was Dance No One's Watching. But I would start with Where I'm Meant to Be on Ezra Collective is your entry point to them. Fascinating, this next female trumpeter and multi-instrumentalist. I'm talking about Emma Jean Thackeray and her LP, her debut LP, Yellow, that was released about 4 years ago. Let me read the description on the hype sticker, and I agree with this. The debut album, which draws glowing lines between 70s jazz fusion, P-Funk, the cosmic innovations of Sun Ra and Alice Coltrane. I think that's a perfect description of what you're getting on this LP by Emma Jean Thackeray, Yellow. But what that description misses is just how melodic and accessible it is. You can play this LP to anybody who doesn't really like jazz, and the textures and the flow of it would be great at a dinner party, but it's still really experimental. She's an amazing compositionist. Compositionist, is there a word? She's an amazing composer and amazing arranger, I think is what I was trying to say. So that's Emma Jean Thackeray in Yellow. Readily available, you can stream it as well. I think she's working on new music, because I've seen some updates somewhere on Facebook about coming back. You might even see a new single released on Spotify, which I haven't heard yet. But Yellow, I remember meeting some of the folks at Collect Records with getting this when it came out, and were absolutely wowed by this young woman, and just what an amazing arranger and composer she is, and also a trumpet, and she's a multi-instrumentalist too. But Yellow by Emma Jean Thackeray, remember what I've just said? There's P-Funk in here, there's Afrobeat, there's influence from Sun Ra, and there's Alice Coltrane in here too, and it's an amazing LP. Again, wouldn't be a bad place to start. Right, we're going to go off into something it's I think akin to a UK version of Pharoah Sanders now. Tony Burkle is a lead trumpeter and he is better known by the band name Work, Money, Death. So this is, if you've heard Karma by Pharoah Sanders, it's akin to that, but a British version of that. Two long songs, one of them very melodic, funky, the other more challenging. So it's kind of how Karma plays out, right, by Pharoah Sanders, but it's still British sounding. It's still got that, and he's from the north. It's got that kind of north gritty sound to it, but it's very much jazz, very much funk too on the track that's more accessible. So I have to read the title of this out because I will forget it otherwise. This Work, Money, Death LP is called "The Space in Which the Uncontrollable Unknown Resides Can Be the Place from Which Creation Arises." So even that title alone probably tells you what you're dealing with here. It's very much in that spacey Pharoah Sanders vein. So here we go. Let's keep going. This next one is such a great LP. And it made a splash at the time, but then I hadn't heard anything about this artist since I mentioned Shabaka Hutchings. He's signed a female saxophonist named Chelsea Carmichael, and she released this LP 3 years ago via his Native Rebels label, and it's called The River Doesn't Like Strangers. And it's just a great, quite a conventional is the wrong word, but it plays like a modern hard bop jazz LP, but again with a British influence. Her sax playing, her tone and her melody, and again her compositions across this LP are amazing. I just can't believe, I've seen a few Facebook updates from her where she's been touring around Europe, but I can't believe, following that initial splash in some of the magazines like Jazzwise, that this LP got, that no one's picked up on it. So The River Doesn't Like Strangers by Chelsea Carmichael, you can definitely stream it. I think this is still readily available. As I say, it's on Shabaka Hutchings' Native Rebels record label, but it's just an amazing jazz LP. If you like jazz, and you like jazz that is hard bop, bebop, that is just what you're expecting with a jazz 3 or 4 piece, this is the one to start with. So The River Doesn't Like Strangers by Chelsea Carmichael. As you can see, black British woman, amazing saxophonist, and this is an absolutely unbelievable LP, and very, very accessible too. I'm going to stick with Shabaka Hutchings. I did say he's a big influence in this. I'm going to talk about Shabaka and the Ancestors, his LP. This is a split group that he has. It's very poetic, very Afrocentric jazz disc, lots of spoken word stuff, but also just amazing music, and music you can get lost in. So this was a double album from a few years ago by Shabaka. This was their second LP, Shabaka and the Ancestors, from a few years ago. To remind myself of what it's called. We Are Here by History is the name of this LP, the second Shabaka and the Ancestors LP. There is just 2 more to go. I'm going to start with the last of the Shabaka Hutchings offerings, which is Sons of Kemet. This is deep music, Black to the Future by Sons of Kemet, their last LP. It's deep music, it's very Afrocentric, it's very experimental. It's probably the most experimental of these 10 LPs. But if you like real depth and a lot of there's a lot on this that's about social justice and a lot about the black experience. But Black to the Future by Sons of Kemet, really good LP. Now this last one is music to get lost in. If you like Alice Coltrane, then you really should check out a lot of the LPs by Matthew Halsall, who's a Manchester-based trumpet player and arranger. It is very much in the vein of those great 60s Alice Coltrane LPs, dreamy, ethereal music you can get lost in. There's harp all over this too, so a great one for a Sunday afternoon. But Matthew Halsall, I haven't heard a bad LP by him. I see a Manchester-based trumpeter, but it's more about his arrangements and the band around him. And you know, you've got these languid 10-12 minute tracks, jazz tracks, by him and his band. Again, I've missed him twice live. I must go and see Matthew Halsall and his band. And he's got his own record label too, and his own orchestra, the Godwana Orchestra, I think they're called. So there's actual splinters off Matthew Halsall's stuff. It's a bit like what Sunrod does with all these splinter groups coming off it. So you can see that this British jazz scene just has trees, right? So going backwards then, Matthew Halsall, Salute to the Sun, Manchester-based trumpeter and arranger. Recommended if you like Alice Coltrane. Political and social ebb and flow of the music of Sons of Kemet and about the black experience, Black to the Future, Probably the most difficult in terms of accessibility of these LPs, but nevertheless absolutely fantastic, and keeping open mind to it. Shabaka and the Ancestors, again, Shabaka Hutchins and About That Black Experience, very poetic music. Would be a great starting point if we're going to choose 3 or 4 of these. Chelsea Carmichael, The River Doesn't Like Strangers, just a great hard bop jazz LP, fantastic compositions, but very British sounding. Then we talked about Tony Bergel in Work Money Death, if you like Karma by Pharoah Sanders, for example, then check this out. 2 long tracks, one funky and very accessible, the other one much more challenging, not quite free jazz, but as Karma was, you know, quite angular. The amazing Emma Jean Thackeray in Yellow, check that out, would definitely be a good first LP for this melodic. You can play this to anybody, but also very stretching, incredible talent. Ezra Collective, probably the biggest band in this entire show and display. Where I'm Meant to Be, uber talented musicians, every single one of them. Great sound, funky, danceable. Like nothing you've ever heard. Yaz Ahmed with La Sabatus. Bahrainian trumpet with funk and dance running right to the centre of it. And as I say, sounds like a snake charmer having a wrestle with Miles Davis. Odyssey, Nubia Garcia, possibly, as I say, the singular most talented musician of the lot. Amazing saxophonist, stretching, never stands still. This is laced with orchestral backings and a couple of vocal tracks actually. Or you may go for her debut LP Source, which is much more about funk and dub, but her sax is prominent throughout. Then we started with The Comet Is Coming, London psychedelic, Afrobeat and funk 3-piece, led by Shabaka Hutchins on saxophone, and one of the band is named Betamax, who does all the electronic stuff, so for those who remember Betamax videos. So there you go, the new wave of British jazz is happening, and it needs to be talked about more in the VC. And if I've missed any videos, then please link them. If not, let's start talking about this, because that just scratches the surface of the new wave of British jazz. Or tell me if there's already a name for it, because I don't know what it is. If there is, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'll see you next Friday, if not before. Bye.